recording now. So I'll show you a couple of different ways to do the collage version. Here, with this, it's pretty straightforward that you can see these great big shapes. You don't have to make this exactly, as long as, like, this is just like a better guide than the smaller drawing to reproduce this. Now, do you get, in looking at this drawing, do you get the impression that there's depth? And do these look like three-dimensional objects?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. All right, so we have black paper here, and something that I can do, if I have something really specific, you can there. When you're doing that, if you use a straight edge to tear this, pull it across it. Don't pull it like up like that towards yourself. You pull it across the straight edge and hold it down firmly on a hard surface. It'll tear really nicely. Little pro tip. Okay, now the reason I want this tracing paper and my dots there. I'm going to take these down here. Okay, so I will trace this first with pencil. I want to have this and I have to do this so that it's something that I can cut out of paper. If you have a design drawn and you don't need to do this trace and transfer process, that's okay. But if you do want something really specific like this, I think with this drawing, it'll make my life a lot easier after spending the time to make the drawing. I can do that. Okay, so I'll just work on this little section down here. That there. So I need these all to be solid pieces of paper. Now using the since I'm going to cut this out of the construction paper, I could just put this face down and retrace it. I can just see it well enough. I did in the Tuesday class, I did a demo where I after tracing this, on this side I inked it. So that when I put this down here, I can see it. Why did my mail just pop up? There. So I can still see this on the back. It's a little bit bigger. There we go. So if I can, and then put pencil down like this. And then trace it. Here, excuse me. Stare at the light. Stare at the light. There. All right. Let's see. Looks like I got enough transferred here to, yeah, there we go. You can see it shining there. I can see it well enough that I can cut it out. It's not, it's has its limits to just how much you can see. Let's get this other bigger pieces here. I want to make this as close as I can. To what I originally traced. So the reason to draw it in pencil first and then ink it second is if you need to make a correction, there's some error in your tracing. If you just start by inking it, then you have to start the tracing again. If you know well enough what you're doing with the tracing or with the collage that you don't need to worry about that, then don't. Okay, so that's good. So once I ink that, then I put pencil over it. Let's see if there's any difference here. Some of these, like Ticonderoga pencils, can be a little better. So I want to make sure I put plenty of pencil or graphite over the line that I just traced. Because when I do that pressure transfer, I want it to really come off as easily as I can, as much of the graphite to come off.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. I'm sorry if I'm late.
Oh, that's okay.
My phone was charging, so I wasn't sure what's the time, and now I open it and it's like, oh no.
That is all right. We are here. Well, you've already turned yours in, so you're well ahead. If you of course, if you want.
Yeah, I just like to see how you do it for the
Yeah.
future also.
Oh, sure.
Interesting.
Good idea. Right.
Claudia, I'm so impressed that you're so on top of things.
And no, I'm not. I mean, I look at what I did and I see it could have been so much better. But, I feel like the most difficult is the idea, but then execution, you can always improve.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, this is coming up with ideas. I'm sure we've all had that experience of sitting and looking at a blank piece of paper, and the pressure to do something good can be pretty strong. And I think probably the best way to come up with good work is to make a lot of work, because I think the smaller percentage of your work will be good. The greater percentage of your work will be anywhere from mediocre to bad, and that's really true for anyone. The longer you do work, the better you get at a lot of more basic stuff, where you can learn technique well. But coming up with ideas is still you can get into a rut. You can just reach a point where you don't want to do the same thing over. You want to break out and do some new work. And it's just the difficult thing about art and design is that your interests change. And I have a friend who's he makes large scale, mostly abstract paintings, but he used to make realistic paintings, like figurative, portraits. He's from West Virginia. He's from a coal mining town in West Virginia, and sort of the thing that he got known for at first was these paintings of West Virginians, and just people he knew, and he would go back and make these really very nice portraits of people in this landscape that had been sort of blasted industrial landscape, and what coal mining has done to West Virginia. And he was very, he sold a lot of those paintings. He had a gallery that carried his work. They loved it. They could always, people were always buying his paintings. And after several years, he did this for a while, and he just got to where he was sick of it. He's like, I don't want to keep painting the same painting over and over again, is what he started to feel like. So he changed, and he wanted to paint abstractly. He wanted to paint more like close-up, more like a close-up of a surface was sort of sometimes the beginning of one of his paintings. And his gallery tried to sell his new work, but people were like, well, aren't you going to do more of those people? And eventually, he just had to say, no, I'm not. I'm not doing that work anymore. And after they sold all of his old paintings, and they tried selling his new stuff, but not very many people were interested in this gallery. So he eventually moved on to a different gallery that carried his work, that carried more of that kind of work, that attracted people who were more interested in a contemporary art, more just abstraction. And so eventually he did get it back. But it's really hard to do that. It kind of, makes sense that a lot of people in the arts, once they hit upon something successful, they don't want to change it, because they'll lose their clients, or they'll lose their audience. And it's it's too bad that it's like that, but that's kind of, if you get known for something, that's what people want from you. And it's a professional risk to change it. We learn in school to take risks and change things all the time. But when you're doing professional work, it's a lot harder to do that. Okay, so you can see I've got enough of this image that I can see it. I think I will also come back and trace it. So it's going to be, so this is backwards because I traced it face down, but because it doesn't matter which side of the construction paper I'm using. It doesn't matter if it's backwards. All right. And then this. So like I could do these kind of like, I could draw these like kind of jagged shapes freehand, but I need to get this curve. I need to get all of these shapes as I drew them. So tracing it is very helpful. Scissors are somewhere. There you are. This out. Now some of this I could cut out, just take the scissors and there. Okay. And I got all those that are on the same. Cut that straight. Save you guys. So just slowly close the scissors and then just turn the paper to create this. I find being right-handed, I find that it's more comfortable to turn the scissors out away from my center like this. I mean, coming in like this, I'm actually coming toward my fingers. So I don't want to do that. Yeah, so you find, no one taught me to do this way. I just developed this as a logical way of doing it. So this piece I want to save. I can maybe put an X on it in case it gets mixed up with some other shapes. That one I probably wouldn't mistake for some scrap piece, but this one here, I think I could easily mistake this one. And I'll mark this on the same side. And then this I'm going to cut out. There. That goes in there. And now I'm going to use the knife to do the detail. All right, now I want to cut it like this. Knife is here. Drafting dots. We'll take this down. just on that corner, because I'm going to have to cut in there. And this thing, I have to put the dispenser back. If you have this like box of drafting dots, there is a way of creating a little like dispenser. There's like it comes out of the box and there's this extra flap. You put it inside there. Yep. And then you pull this, and if it comes out cleanly, that'll just sort of like dispense this. Yeah, sometimes this as a mechanism doesn't work beautifully, and so you just like I'll just open up the box and pull them out of there. All right. So again, this here, what you can see there, you can see the pencil on the paper. Pull it this way. Pull it this way. All right. So this is right, and then just follow my pencil line. Let's see. So if for some reason I goof this up, I still have the, I guess I have to do it again. I'd rather
Doug,
not.
are you now cutting with your knife along the pencil marks?
Yeah. Yes, I'm following the pencil marks as closely as I can. Okay. Let's see. How did I do? All right. So I know I had this one in the drawing. So this is a, pardon me, Elliot. So that's this bit right here. So what I need to do is flip these over. Make sure that that's nice and tight there. What? There we go. Okay. There, we need to make sure that this comes in about as tightly as that does. This is good. You know, this is when I glue that down, you'll see that this will look like a shadow. If I want a little bit more like thinner cuts, I can try to recut some of those and make them thinner. But I think once I've got this like this, I don't know that I'm going to mess with it because it's good enough. And if I try like to make finer cuts, I could risk ruining this piece of paper and then having to do it again. Having to redo it is not a disaster. It's just, as I'm sure you know, you don't want to have to do it again. It's kind of like, it's kind of a drag to have to redo something. But that being said, if you have to do something twice, do it again. I can see where this could curve more like that. Let's try it. So I guess I could have had, even like when I'm doing the cutting, I could have my drawing out so I can see what I'm actually getting, as opposed to how closely this matches this. I want more curve here. All right. Okay. So there's only so much I can do. And I could try cutting this in a little deeper here. Yeah, but I think the curve of this helps it to look like it's this shadow that wraps around a curved surface. On the smaller area up here, I don't think I would mess around with it too much, or at all, because I don't want it to, it happens, you like try for a little bit more, and then you go too far, and then that's it. Yeah, I think this does need a little bit of a, yeah, I guess I probably should have just, that's great. Yeah. So if I'm messing around with this and I'm making it different but not better, then I should stop. Sometimes you just make something that really is like a lateral move instead of it going forward or backward. That's a good indication that that you should just leave it alone. I know that from doing my own work in fine arts that I would work on something and think I can make it better, and then you work on it, and then you see that it's not better yet, Then you work on it some more, it's not better yet, and then you realize you're changing it without improving it. It's a good indication that it's time to stop. You don't know that before you try that, so I always want everyone to try things rather than decide after you try something. You do one thing and decide, oh, that's the best thing I could possibly do. You really don't know. Okay, good. So this here, I'm going to set this aside to make a, oh, no you don't. No you don't. Make my 8x8 piece of paper here. I'm going to leave a border. So 1 and 9. Whoops, I'm a little too. There. All right. Go to 1 and 9. 1 and 9 down there. And then here, this is this paper I'm using is doesn't give me any leeway out here, so I'll just go from the edge of the piece of paper to 8. Making marks here, by the way, using the scale or any kind of ruler. Drafting scales have this is kind of smooth. Some drafting scales will have grooves here, and you can just the pencil will fall into the groove. When I'm making the mark, I will just put the sharp point down and then kind of rotate the pencil a little bit and kind of drill a little dot there. There it is. It's right there. That way, if I make a mark like that, this starts to get wide, and when you're trying to be precise, you want this mark to be clear. But you want it to be as small as possible. There. Good. I'm going to use this edge.
So Duffy, am I correct that the collage is 8x8 as well?
Correct.
Okay, so it pretty much matches. It could be an overlay for the inking one you did.
Correct. Yep. It's I mean the 8x8 drawing is really meant to I guess the drawings they're meant to give you serve as a guide.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Good. Make this small like that. Good. Well, that looks great. Right. So now the construction paper is will give you this nice clean matte finish. Matte meaning it's not reflective. It's important in design work that in the old days when people would do paste up artwork, either for photography or for presentation, you don't want it to be reflective, because if you put it under lights, the kind of lighting that you use for photography or up on a board where you might have spotlights, you don't want light shining off of the surface, making it hard to see. Okay. Glue this down. So let's grab the glue stick and cement. Alright, so now I've got a guide here for this. If I want to use the rubber cement or the glue stick, make sure you get the glue all the way out to the end of it. I can use the border of my drawing here since it's just scrap. And then I will place this down right into the corner. This one I know is going right in the corner. A few seconds where I can position it. I'm going to burnish it with my fingernail. Like that. Next one, this one will be a little bit more challenging. What I would do with this, we're applying the glue. Get this a little bit more centered in the picture. Sort of like brush it away from those little spiky shapes. Because if I go like this, it'll fold up on me. I don't want that. So I would always sort of like, start in the middle and push it out toward the edge. And you want to get it to the edge because then it'll, if you don't get it to the edge, it won't stick down completely. So this I want to be careful. Get that like to there. In there, and when it's down and it's starting to stick, then I have to commit to it. Press that out. So there might be some adjustments that you have no choice but to make once you start doing the finished version, like that. There, like that's going to get cut off. There, I'm going to leave it a little sliver of white here. Bring this down to the border. Good. Excuse me. I'll use the rubber cement for this next one. So now this, because when I traced this and put it together, I put the X on the same side of the piece of paper. So this like X in pencil here, that's the side I'm putting the glue on. So you can leave yourself some clues about, it's like, that's direction. So I don't have to like check it all the time, like, oh, which way does it go? It will possibly happen doing this where you have these pieces cut out that have to go in a specific direction, that you put the adhesive on the wrong side and then you go to do it and they go, what? Then you just have to cut another one. No way around that. Okay, rubber cement. Pew. If you can handle the glue stick well, then you can handle the glue stick well, but the rubber cement, as if you've ever worked with it before, you'll know that getting it on a surface means that you can pick it up off of a surface with the rubber cement picker-upper. The instructions, like if you look at this jar, will tell you to like put the rubber cement on both surfaces, let it dry, and then stick it down under weight. That is not how I use this stuff. I just put the stuff on wet, and I'm running low. Yeah, this is a demonstration to like not use rubber cement, I guess. There we go. Up a little bit more. Yeah, this stuff, this jar is getting down to the bottom. It's starting to dry out a little bit, getting old. That's okay. Good. Yeah, enough. All right. The rubber cement as an adhesive is more forgiving. Like you can pull pieces up. Like I've got a little more working time with this. Like I can still pick that up. With the glue stick, once it starts sticking to the paper, it's stuck. The rubber cement, you've got more time. It's good, just like that. And then any adhesive that I have on the edge, I've got some adhesive on the edge. Once that dries, I can pick it up with the rubber cement pickup thing. I guess just like a little, looks a little bit like a little tofu thing. But this is like solidified rubber cement, and you take the try this with some of this dry here. If you're trying to pick up paper or pick up glue that's on or around paper, you want to be careful. You don't want to scrub too hard because you'll pull up the piece of paper that you glued down. Okay, so good. Then you get little rubber cement boogers and find some place to put them where you can dispose of them a little more neatly so they don't end up all over like the table surface or the floor or something like that. There, I'm well on my way with this design. Ta-da! Now, that's one way. If you have really clear shapes that you're cutting out like this, you might try to, oopsie, I just put that up. You might try to design it, just draw it out so that you can cut clear shapes, because this goes, it takes some time and some care, but it's a little bit, can be quicker than what we're going to do, if I may, Elliot. Thank you so much. Oh, no you don't. There. So this here, now something that is like with this one, I don't necessarily need to trace these. I can just redraw this. It's, I can make this as close enough that, let me do this over here. I can make it close enough that it's really like not necessary to trace it and transfer it. I can just redraw it. And I like that about this drawing. So different designs have different different needs, and so you have to just like know that certain images might have a different kind of a process of execution than others. And you shouldn't avoid difficult ones if that's what the design demands. I remember way back teaching at in an interior design program at a college called Harrington. They like interior design 1 studio course, students were given a choice of starting with a floor plan where they would have to work on like curves. They would have to use curves, or they used right angles. So rectangular or circular basis of the the walls and just the configuration of the interior. And I remember overhearing some students talking about it, and one student said, "I'm going to use the rectangular plan because that's easier." And my thought was, what if you have to use the curve? What if you have to use curves? You should probably learn how. I mean, it's not like you you know, in professional practice, I mean, it's you know, it takes time to learn a good range of skills. So just give yourself that time. But you know, you'll always have like you want to have a like solid basis in as many different things as you can, because at some point you don't know what you're going to be called upon to do professionally or what you're going to need to be able to do. And so I don't like it when there's like work to do and I have to say I don't know how to do that. It's kind of a drag. I mean, it's sort of like it hurts it hurts me to have to say I don't know how to do something. I think it's just kind of unacceptable. And then I try to learn it. It's a good ideal to have. Nobody ever reaches the ideal. Okay, so here I'll put these guys down. So I'm going to do the shading here. Now, I know I talked about this on Tuesday. Tracing some of it. Let's see, I'll do that. I think I will. I'm going to, because this is complex. If you try to build all this up with little tiny pieces, all that shading, that's how a lot of students have done this in the past, and it takes a long time. And I want you to be able to do this well without it taking an insane amount of time. And I think that, you know, we all have to learn how to be efficient. It's really not about easiest. You know, the easiest thing would be to, like, you know, give up and not do it. I don't want you to do that. But I think, you know, you want to look at, when you have work to do, you want to think about how to make it efficient for yourself so that you're using your time well. Yeah, it's kind of, that rubber cement's kind of like swallowed a little bit of the adhesive on my Band-Aid. All right, you trash. All right, let's see. So here, so I've got this edge here. I'm going to just choose this. I'm going to trace this and try to just preserve some of like the quality of the brush mark on the edge. You know, this is the kind of thing, like tracing this will. You might not be, I guess you might not be that into it, but for me, it's like you kind of understand the mark that a brush makes. And I always want to understand things as best I can. Hey, little baby. All right, and then I'm going to make a few cuts. Hey, what are you doing? Don't eat dots. He eats little, like he tries to eat the drafting dots. He likes adhesive. And that, I don't know if I really. Oh, you know what? See, this is my mistake. I'm tracing this, oops, and I just kind of drew this kind of at random. So I can't do that. If I'm going to trace this, if I'm going to trace that shape of black for the paper, then I have to trace and transfer that to here. So I would have figured that out sooner or later. Like when I went to put it on this, like, oh yeah. Sometimes you just get ahead of yourself. All right, well then, that's fine. That's easy enough fix. I caught it soon enough. Now I've traced this, so I can use this to transfer it to here. And if I were doing that, I might just put a piece of tracing paper over the whole 8x8, trace all of it as one image, and then, yeah, I think I'm going to trace. I'll transfer this to this so that it's the same. It reads the same way. You could just say like, well, I'll just put it face down. That would be easier. But if you're working on something, you cannot necessarily reverse it, like a floor plan or typography, like design of typography. Especially like typography would be a good one if you're doing like a typography design. You can't just say like, well, I'll just put it face down. That'll be quicker. And then it's backwards, like it's demonstrably backwards. Sometimes, like in fine arts, it might not matter. I'm a printmaker, and I make etchings, woodcuts, screen prints. Made lithographs once upon a time when I was in college. And when you print off of a surface, you get a reversal. So if you've got text, it has to be backwards on your plate or your block or your stone, so that when you print, it'll reverse and be the right way. So if it's just an image, I always found that like what's the big deal if it's like this way or if it's this way? If the composition works one way, it should work the other way. I think for images that can be true, but they are different. Okay, so I want to transfer this way. So I have to go through that same process and get my pen. Yep. So like here, I need to transfer not just like, I need to transfer this shape of the edge. Yes, I do need to do that. Think a little bit. Yeah. Right. And then this, I will trace it with the pen. Close enough. I think I'm gonna do that and let that be a separate, like, free-floating piece. Same with that. There are times I can make my life a little easier if I can do it. Okay. That's that. Then where's my over here? Where's the sharpener? There it is. Sharpen your pencil. I hated stopping my work and sharpening my pencil when I was a student. I'm not sure why. I guess, well, it just didn't feel like stopping. And I remember drawing in a drawing class, and you could hear the wood of the pencil sort of squeaking against the paper. And my professor finally came over and took the thing out of my hand, and he said, "Go get another pencil. This one's done. Or sharpen it." So I did. I didn't mind that intervention because I was just being a little obsessive. Okay. And I was the kind of student where sometimes they had to intervene and just say, "You are not doing it the way I told you to do it, and you're not getting good results. So stop." All right. So here, why are you falling out of there? And broke the graphite up inside the wood. Sometimes that does happen with the pencil sharpeners where you turn, sort of like turn it, the torque will sometimes break the graphite inside the pencil. It happens more with soft colored pencils than with this. God dang it, come on. Better. Okay, so I'm just going to pile up some graphite here. All right. Good. And then make sure you got your tape down, secure your work, and then you don't have to fight it or chase it around your table. All right. Good. So this is a Ticonderoga pencil. It says soft. Normally pencils like this are just kind of standard HB graphite. This one seems to be a little bit softer, and the softer pencil will transfer better. But this is like, this is like you can buy, those are cheap. Buy a box of them for not very much money. All right, so now I want to do two things with this tracing. Number one, I would line this up so that it matches. I think this is where I would trace the whole thing. Like I would trace the whole image on one piece of tracing paper, ink it, and do the graphite. All right, that's the right side. The ink side is up. It's also a good way to, another reason to ink it is that it'll help you to remember which side is up. So I could have it like a transfer, just like a trace transfer on this surface of the entire image, which is, I guess that's what I would be doing right now. Yeah, come back here. And I'm going to take that in two places so that it doesn't shift around on me. Good. Now you'll see the graphite transfers really well on white paper. No surprise that when you transfer the graphite onto black paper, you don't have as much contrast, and so you just can't see it. As well, you can see it, but it's just, you know, I think when you transfer the pencil to the construction paper, really the way you see it is that the graphite is reflective.
Duffy, I'm not really clear on how the graphite is getting through the tracing paper to transfer itself onto your collage.
It's not going through the paper.
Okay. Is it the pressure
Yes,
that's
pressure.
okay?
The graphite back here, and the pressure transfers that. It's kind of like carbon paper. If you, you know, some of us remember good old carbon paper that you used to use in a typewriter to make copies of documents.
Right.
So it works the same way.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I used to like drawing, like putting carbon paper on paper and then drawing on it and just transferring that really dark black. That's good. All right, that's good enough. All right, I guess. All right, so. All right, so then, like, so here, the reason I want to trace and transfer this to the paper, to this, you know, finished paper, is that when I cut this out of black paper, I want to make sure that it matches up. So basically, I'm trying to make it match up to the whole, you know, to the whole image. So now I'm going to do the transfer again. Oops. And yep, that's good. That's transferring well enough. Yep. Now this process I'm going through might seem like it is just a lot of time just to get what's going to be a lot of the shadow on one object, but if you try building this black up with a lot of smaller pieces, that'll take even more time. And as I say, I want you to make it efficient. I'm not really concerned about what's easiest. I don't think I would ever tell anyone that I work for or with that I did something only because it's the easiest thing I could have thought of. So, not a great way to inspire confidence. At least I know how I would feel. Because if you say, I did this because it's easiest, I would think, well, are you sure it's the best solution? All right. And the answer would be no. If you only did it because it's the easiest thing, then I don't see how it could ever be the best. I mean, you wouldn't know if it's the best solution. So if you say it's efficient, that makes it sound better, because sometimes you do make choices, especially if you're on a time limit. You make choices that are, allow you to get the work done faster. Okay, we have this as a model here, and I can see it. Right. Now here again, similar to these guys, I need to make this close. But I can get away with it not being 100% exact. I can even change it at this point if I want to. But I think since I know that that worked, I'm just going to trace this as closely as I can. Good. I can see that better. There you go. That's like nice and clear with the reflection. Good. Well, now I can cut this out. First thing I'll do is cut that off of there. Make myself. Make sure I cut that as a curve. Okay. Good. I cut that too close there. Well, that's all right. So some of these bigger simpler edges here, I can cut like down into there, there. If you are good with the scissors, you can just do it this way. Careful, don't make sure you cut it. One difficulty with the scissors is it can be a little hard to see if I've cut all the way into that little corner there. And if I cut too far, I can cut right through and just knock that guy right off of there. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to finish the rest with a knife. There. there. I can just reposition this later. Okay. So I have this sitting here. So I'm just like trying to keep the cuts as simple as I can. I'm making them straight wherever I can. And be careful. Don't cut toward your finger. So if I'm doing this, like here, make sure you're not holding it like that. Because if it slips, a nice, you know, like if it slips, and I've done this twice, where I was not paying attention, I was just like losing my focus of being careful, and I was cutting and I had my finger or my thumb in the way, and I was using a lot of force, and then it just slipped through the material, and then like I cut myself harder than I would if I tried. It would be hard to try to like really like bring the knife against your finger or thumb with such force. Right. Let's see. All right, put these stronger glasses on. Oh, yeah, let's use my better glasses, I guess. Okay. All right, good. So having this taped down to the back of a drawing pad or to the cutting mat allows you to slide it around. I like it if I can, some of these I'm just moving it so that I can cut it toward myself. Or in some cases just away from the rest of the part that I want to keep. There. Okay, whew. That's good. Oh, you know what? I have to cut some of these pieces out here. That's good. Mm-hmm. There, it's good. Okay, I might add one. Once I kind of get the hang of how I'm cutting these little extra bits that are meant to look like breaks in the shading. Oops, careful. Get that. Cool. Now here, yeah, of course. I think I need to adjust this. Okay. That's better. So I still might have to make some adjustment. Good, that's better. Cool. Looks good. Then for some of the extra little bits out here, those little specks of things, then I would take, some of these that I cut off might work just as they are, as little pieces to show this transition. Some of them need to be a little smaller. Well, I they get too small, you can't put adhesive on them, not very easily. Right? So this still needs, this does need a few small flecks of black out here. Good. Good now. All right. Good. So now what I'll do is I'll use this as my barrier sheet with the adhesive. This over to here. All right, good. So make sure these might not matter as much which side the adhesive is on. This one does. All right, so scrap piece of paper so that you can push this out and get adhesive on it if you, when you're doing this, this is really just the best way to do it. Watch out that I don't move this too much because I don't want to get glue on the surface. With a bigger piece like this, I got to work a little faster so that this glue stick doesn't dry up on me. Make sure I get the glue out to the edge, and then just line that up quickly as best I can. And once it's down, it's down. Okay. There. All right. So you can see where even if this is close to what I traced from that drawing up there. And I think it's close enough. Hopefully I don't run into problems with other things matching up, which is why you want to have, like if I go to do this next one down here, I just want to make sure that I can see the whole, if I trace and transfer the whole picture, we'll see better what I'm, how all that's lining up. All right, so this here, if you take stab this with the knife so you can, so it actually does, so it doesn't move. Put this piece down and then use a pencil, like the eraser of a pencil, to hold it down when you pick the knife up. It's here. Good. Beautiful. And this will work nicely. Where am I putting this? Yeah, it's, there's a lot of, there are a lot of places I could put this. It's a little tough to get it all the way to the edge. I guess I like that. There. I might need to, if you're going to, this blade is kind of, this blade is getting trashed. I could use it to move some adhesive underneath that, like that. Good. So this is Good. Yeah, sometimes you lose them, come off and get stuck to the glue stick or the rubber cement. Now, if I were doing this with rubber cement, great. Here, trying to rub it around too much. Good, that's good. If I were doing this with rubber cement, I think what I would do is put like a little blob of rubber cement here, so I can just like pick this up, just kind of like dip it into the rubber cement. You got to make sure that you stab through this well, otherwise it'll come off in your puddle of rubber cement, like this here. There. Put the cap back on this. There. Just like that. Yeah. And then you go to move it, and it moves on you. Just be a little gentler, pressing it down, and then leave it alone. Let the adhesive do its work. Now out here, I've got this kind of like stripy, hatchy kind of mark. If I like that and I want it to look kind of stripy, hatchy, that's good. I could okay. So I'm cutting off a little extra there, then like this I want to keep on the image because I'm getting like this edge that sort of lines up with the curve there. Okay. Be careful. Okay. Right, now some of these would have sort of fallen over the opposite way, which you can see if I these down, that might turn over. Nope, that was the right way. It goes over here. Should have kept better track of which one of these goes where. There. So here I'm creating this edge with these pieces here. Yeah, I should have kept track of which one goes where. But you get the idea of what I'm doing here?
Yes, you're making it look easy.
Well, that's practice. But so I want to create this edge with contrast, and I want to do something that looks kind of like that shading up there for the background. But it's going to be paper, so I have to make some adjustment to account for the fact that it's paper. I don't know. I mean, I can always so something I can also do if I lose track of which one of these is going where, I could also just since I'm up at the edge, I could mount this here. I could just do this, and before it has a chance to dry for too long, I could cut that lightly. So I'm cutting through the black paper but not the white paper, and then pick it up. So I don't have to have these cut perfectly. I could just go a little bit over the edge and then come back and cut it. If it's going out like that, just like this far out of the picture, I can overlap a little bit more so that when I cut it, I've got a bigger piece to pull up. But I want to use that, sort of build that up and create this edge, this clear white edge with contrast in the background. Any questions about that? All right, I'm going to take a short, take 5 minutes, and you all got the illustration board or presentation board?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you
Yes.
good. If you don't know, just a couple.
I don't have it.
Okay, I know a couple of people didn't get it. And did you see the message about picking it up at the library?
No, I think I missed that.
Okay. I thought I put it into an announcement maybe a week or so ago, but I'll tell you now. The if you were not able to go get the presentation board and the media paper, and the media paper is for the painting projects, they package stuff up. It's got your name on it, and it's at the library. And there's a link in the announcement where you can contact the library to set up a time to go and pick it up.
Okay, I'll check that out. Thank you.
Okay, and if you don't see it, send me an email and tell me. Just look at the announcements section in Blackboard and go down the list until you see it. I'm certain it's there, but hopefully I'm not imagining things. Okay, so give me a couple minutes here. I'm gonna take I'll take 5 minutes, and then I'm gonna wrap this up.